And welcome aboard, everybody. Here, Sports Talk Nation. Michael Cohen here with you. And let me just say this: sometimes strange things just happen for a reason. So it's just an ordinary Friday. Obviously, everybody just getting ready for the Memorial Day holiday here this week. And then we have this news drop that the Arizona Cardinals have released wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins from his contract. He had Hopkins 2 years and $34 million remaining on his deal, and now he is a free agent, which means teams like the Jets, the Giants, and anybody else for that matter, of the 31 other teams in the NFL, now have the opportunity to go out and get one of the top receivers in the National Football League. Will it happen? Let's talk about it. Where will DeAndre Hopkins go? Where will they go? The Cardinals took a $22.5 million cap hit, to release DeAndre Hopkins from the remainder of his contract in Arizona. The Cardinals are rebuilding. They're a bad football team. Their quarterback is out. Kyler Murray is out for pretty much the entire season this year, as he's coming off of I think it's ACL surgery or something. It's coming off of knee surgery, so he is out for the season. They are in rebuild mode. They have a new coach. They have a new front office. They're trying to figure out who they are. So Hopkins is one of the more talented receivers in the league. He has never been on a good team. He's been in Houston. He's been in Arizona. Two teams that, at times, when he went there initially, were in a position to be pretty good, and then, as it turned out, didn't end up being good at all. So where will he end up? Jets, Giants, Chiefs, Bills? Where will he go? Now, this is an interesting statement before I go into where he may end up going. This I found on, this was via the I Am Athletic podcast. Quote, what he is looking for at this point in his career. He's looking to play with a quarterback who loves the game, a quarterback who brings everybody on board with him and pushes not just himself, but everybody around him, and a great defense. A great defense wins championships. Well, there are a few teams out there, and right now, sorry, Giant fans, that team is the Jets. Can you imagine? Just sit here for a second. Just imagine. You have Garrett Wilson already on this team. You already have added Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. The Jets, of course, only have about, as I see here on Sporadic, only about $11 million in cap space. They have one of those still. It's not as bad as it was about 2 months ago. They, of course, restructured a lot of contracts. They're also in the process of restructuring Aaron Rodgers' contract as well. So there's still the chance that that number is going to come down at some point. Maybe they end up releasing somebody like a Corey Davis. They'll have to make some moves in order to make this happen if they want to go out there and be serious for somebody like DeAndre Hopkins. But just imagine for a moment that you have Garrett Wilson and Lazard and Cobb on, as well as DeAndre Hopkins, catching passes from Aaron Rodgers. That would be absolutely incredible. Now, you add that, if you added him, now Hopkins in his career, and for those of you who need a reminder, a career where he's had almost 12,000 yards receiving. He's had 71 touchdowns in his career. Okay? He's been a Pro Bowler multiple times, a former first-round pick, has had 1,000-yard seasons 6 times in his career. Now, the last couple of years has been rough for him. He's been injured. He's been on bad teams. And he is now on the age of 31 years old. This is a I want to win now or never moment for DeAndre Hopkins. But just the idea of him on the Jets would be tantalizing enough, I would think, for Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh to at least consider it. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but at least consider it. And as I said, the Jets are going to have to make some moves to make it happen. But man, it would be something else to watch if indeed it were to come to pass, because it would give the Jets two legitimate number one receivers in Garrett Wilson and Hopkins if it should happen. It just makes their receiving core that much deeper, and it makes them that much more dangerous. Obviously, dangerous as it is already offensively. You add him to the mix, it makes them even more dangerous. Now, Now, the Giants, their situation is very unique because they would have to get very creative in the cap to make it happen. Not to mention, you're trying to sign a player to a long-term contract. Now, as I see here on Sporadic, their cap number is at 224 million, a little close to 225 million dollars in their total salary cap right now. And then when you include the cap space, dead money, all the things involved, right now there's Sporadic saying the Giants have about $4.6 million in cap space, so not a lot of room. They would have to get creative in trying to get DeAndre Hopkins into town. Then again, they have a pressing need to add a wide receiver, number one wide receiver on their team. They drafted a receiver out of Tennessee in Jalen Hyatt, who they think could be a top-flight receiver at some point down the road. We'll see. Maybe he'll have a breakout year. But outside of that, you're talking about Isaiah Hodgins right now being your number one receiver with Darius Slayton as your number two receiver. It's okay, but it's not enough. And you add Hopkins to the mix with Saquon Barkley, all of a sudden Daniel Jones has a number one receiver that he has not had since he's been here with the Giants the last 4 or 5 years. So for the Giants, it's much more of a pressing need. For the Jets, it's just, at this point, it'd just be gluttony. Okay, it would just be gluttony to have another big-time weapon to add to your Super Bowl winning quarterback as you're trying to make a big-time run in the AFC. For the Giants, this would answer a need that they have to have almost immediately, and it would certainly give them some street cred against the Cowboys and against the Eagles in the NFC East if they are able to make that play. Now, of course, there's other teams in the league that are going to be in play, teams that have been mentioned already. I've seen it on the article in ESPN. The Buffalo Bills have been mentioned. The Baltimore Ravens have been mentioned. Interesting because the Ravens already added Odell Beckham Jr. I saw the Patriots get mentioned. And then there's another team that's gotten floated around on Twitter is Kansas City. Now, Kansas City and Buffalo, ironically, either one of those teams has a lot of space that I can see here. Kansas City and Buffalo. Buffalo right now has about $1.6 million in cap space, while Kansas City has about a little over $1 million in cap space. But they are projected as top destinations. Again, moves will have to be made in order to make that happen. Roster changes would have to be made to make that happen. But both teams have exactly the situation that you would think Hopkins would be looking for. That would be more likely. And, of course, if you have somebody, DeAndre Hopkins, I just read you his quote about wanting to play for a quarterback who can push it to another level. Of course, we all know Patrick Mahomes can certainly push things to another level, and Kansas City, of course, is the defending Super Bowl champions and has won it a couple of times. So that would make a lot of sense. So it's going to be very interesting to see where DeAndre Hopkins ends up in the NFL as he is now a free agent. But if you are a Giants fan, if you're a Jets fan, you should be watering at the mouth. You should be watering at the mouth at the prospect that your team could very well end up with one of the better receivers in the National Football League at some point very, very soon. We'll see how that plays out. Now, one other order of business. A lot of fans are jumping off the cliff this week with regards to Aaron Rodgers and his calf injury. And as we all know, the calf injury was a slight strain, nothing to get too worried about. He has mentioned numerous times, as Rodgers, since in the last couple of days that he feels fine, and it was just a precaution just to make sure he didn't make it even worse. So that's fun. Hey, look, it's OTAs. It's May. It's nothing to get too crazy about. I know we want to make sure that Aaron Rodgers is healthy. We're going to be nervous all season watching him, making sure that he, anytime he gets hit, gets up and is A-OK. But it is May. It is just time to just relax. It's OTAs, folks. It's OTAs. I mean, I even saw a picture in the Daily News. And again, I want to give credit to UK Ireland Jets fans on Twitter for this post of the the Daily News back page, which featured 3 Jet fans with paper bags over their heads because Rodgers had a calf injury. We got to relax. Got to relax on this story. There's more pressing things going on for the Jets right now as far as making sure you can get Mekhi Becton squared away as far as what he's thinking. I mean, he's upset at the Jets coaching staff for the way that he was moved to right tackle. They got to get Quinton Williams' contract squared away and get him in camp. More pressing needs right now for the Jets than worrying about a muscle pull at this moment in time. Ask me again in August, maybe a different story. But right now, not going to worry about it. So leave your thoughts below, folks. What do you think about the possibility of DeAndre Hopkins maybe ending up in New York with one of the teams here in this area? Leave your thoughts below, like and subscribe. We'll talk to you next time.